everybody, my name is Brendan Teeling and I work in Dublin City Council, and on behalf of Dublin City Council, really a great pleasure to welcome you to this very special event here this morning. And it's my great pleasure to welcome the first of our several important speakers, representing the Lord Mayor of Dublin, Councillor Mary Callaghan.
Good morning, everyone. It's a great honour for me to represent the Lord Mayor of Dublin and Dublin City Council at this very special event. I want to acknowledge the presence here today of my fellow councillors, Minister O'Gorman, the ambassadors of Australia, Austria, Canada, the Czech Republic, Germany, Israel, Lithuania, Poland, the United Kingdom, and Ukraine. Members of the Steinberg family, members of the Shishi family, members of the Jewish community and school here in Dublin, members of the Roma community, the pupils and staff of St. Catherine's National School, and of course the chair and staff of the Holocaust Education Ireland. Dublin City Council has been associated with Holocaust Education Ireland since it first organised the Holocaust Memorial Day commemoration for the state in 2003. That event was facilitated by the Lord Mayor of the time, Councillor Dermot Lacey. Councillor Lacey and Councillor Moriarty were the two councillors who formally proposed that the Stolpersteine be approved by the council, and I want to thank them for their role. The Stolpersteine event, taking place outside St. Catherine's National School in Dublin 8, is of national and historical significance for the city of Dublin and indeed for Ireland. This area around the South Circular Road and Portobello became the area of settlement of Jewish people fleeing anti-Semitism from the Russian Empire at the end of the 19th and the beginning of the 20th centuries. They were in search of freedom and economic opportunity, and this was known as Little Jerusalem. Although many Jews moved out of the area in the 1960s and 70s, there are still people living here who remember their Jewish neighbours, and indeed some who lit fires and cooking stoves for them during the Sabbath. There was always a warmth and respect for one another's traditions. The decision to approve the installation of Stolpersteine was made by the Council's Commemorations and Naming Committee, chaired by Councillor Micheál McDonagh. Councillor McDonagh cannot be here, but other members of the committee are, and I'd like to thank them all for the great work that they do in considering and deciding who should be honoured in the city. I want to also thank the council officials, in particular Jerry Byrne, who carried out the works necessary for the memorials to be installed. And a really special welcome today to Gunter Demnig, the man behind this project. The project is the largest decentralised memorial in the world, with more than 90,000 memorial stumblestones in 27 countries around the world. We are proud that Dublin City is now part of this ever-growing remembrance project. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Callaghan. Councillor, I mentioned the long relationship between Dublin City Council and Holocaust Education Ireland. It's my pleasure now to welcome the chair of that excellent organisation, Professor Tom O'Dowd.
The main thrust of our work in Holocaust Education Ireland is remembrance, education and awareness. And what more fitting project of remembrance could we have than embedding the 6 Stolpersteine or stumbling stones today in memory of the Irish victims of the Holocaust. I want to add to our welcome to Gunter Demnig, who has come from Germany to participate in his Stolpersteine embedding outside this school in Dublin. It is a most imaginative and moving memorial, and we in Dublin are privileged to join over 1,200 cities and now 90,000 Stolpersteine, mainly in Europe and more widely. We also want to welcome most warmly the members of the Steinberg family and the relatives of Isaac Shishi, who have joined us on this historic occasion. I want to express special thanks in this project to Dublin City Council, and in particular Brendan Teeling, the Deputy City Librarian, and all his colleagues. We would like to welcome His Excellency Ambassador Cord Mar-Claude of the German Embassy in Dublin and express our appreciation to the Federal Republic of Germany for the cooperation and support towards this Stolpersteine project. Our particular appreciation to the principal, staff and board of St. Catherine's National School, and most especially the pupils who have contributed so much to today's event. And I want to thank Megan and Kate, our administrators, whose dedication and hard work ensure that the wheels turn professionally and efficiently every day. So today we remember Ettie Steinberg Gluck, Wojteck Gluck and Lena Gluck, whose tragic story has been known in the Irish Jewish community for over 80 years. Ettie was one of 7 siblings, and we are honoured to have so many family members and descendants of Ettie's sisters and brothers here with us today. Nephews, nieces, grandnephews, grandnieces, and even great-grandnephews and grandnieces. So you're all very welcome. And we'll be hearing from Ettie's nephew, Joe Schleider, in a few minutes. We also remember Isaac Shishi, Ephraim and Jeanne Sachs, and we're indebted to David Jackson, whose meticulous research brought to light the stories of Isaac, Ephraim and Jeanne, whose stories were unknown until a few years ago. Isaac Shishi's family came to Dublin from Lithuania in 1890. His father, Shia, had 5 married sisters who also came to Dublin. Today, these families have many descendants in Ireland, South Africa, and the United States. Isaac was born in Dublin in 1891, and his sister Rose the following year. They lived here on South Circular Road. In 1893, Isaac's parents returned to Lithuania with their 2 Irish-born children and 3 more children born in Lithuania. Isaac stayed in Lithuania, where he married Chana Garbel in 1922, and their daughter Shine was born in 1924. In 1941, Isaac Shishi, an Irish citizen, and his wife Chana and their daughter Shine were murdered by the Nazis in Veiksniai, Lithuania, together with Isaac's brother Louis. Their sister Rose, born in Dublin, had gone to the US in 1920, where she married Samuel Godlin. There are many Godlin descendants still in the United States. We're delighted to welcome Jacob Ofsine from New York, a distant cousin of Isaac Shishi, and Shireen Marcus from Dublin, who is here today with her daughter Hannah. Shireen is the great-granddaughter of Isaac's aunt, Malka Shishi, who was married to Bernard Eppel. They came to Dublin with their children in 1885. Now, a brief biography about Ephraim and Jeanne, or Lena, Sachs. The parents of Ephraim and Jeanne Sachs came to Dublin from Ponadel in Lithuania in 1914 via Leeds and Antwerp. They had 3 young children when they arrived in Ireland, and the family remained in Dublin for the duration of the First World War. They lived in St. Albans Road, near the South Circular Road. While the family lived in Dublin, a daughter, Mary, who had been born in Leeds, died in 1916, and she is buried in the Dolphin's Barn Jewish Cemetery in Ochafana Road. Ephraim Sachs was born in Dublin on the 19th of April 1915, and his sister Jeanne on the 2nd of February 1918. In 1920, the family returned to Antwerp in Belgium. During the Second World War, Ephraim Sachs was living in France. He was a furrier and was unmarried. He was arrested on the 24th of August 1942 and deported from Drancy transit camp north of Paris to Auschwitz, where he was murdered. Jeanne Sachs was a salesperson and also single. She was living in Antwerp during the Second World War. She was captured in 1942 and deported in Auschwitz, where she too was murdered. The mother, De Vera, brother Jacob, born in Leeds in 1906, and his wife Dora were also murdered in the Shoah. All of their names are inscribed on memorials in Antwerp and Paris. Two sisters of Ephraim and Jeanne survived the Shoah, and there is family today in Belgium, Israel, and the US. There are no direct relatives of Ephraim and Jeanne Sachs in Dublin, but we have recently heard from their grandniece, Anoush Katsev, who emailed David Jackson to say, "Thank you so much for your email about the Stolperstein. It really moved me. I'm so thankful."
Thank you very much, Professor O'Dowd. The installation of these stumbling stones is an important event for Dublin, but it's also an important event nationally. And I'm pleased to introduce to you now the Minister for Children, Equality, Disability, Integration and Youth, Mr. Roderick O'Gorman. Minister.
Thanks very much, Brandon. Good morning, everyone. And I'd firstly like to thank Holocaust Education Trust Ireland and Dublin City Council for the invitation to participate in this really important event today, and also just to recognise the work that Holocaust Education Trust Ireland does in educating and informing us about the Holocaust. And I want to commend Mr. Demnig on the work he's done with this project, with tens of thousands of Stolpersteine laid outside homes and buildings of significance that are connected to the victims of the Holocaust. And with each Stolperstein that is laid, it connects the communities, it connects the individuals that see those stones every day with the events of the 1930s and the 1940s. And in today's world, we unfortunately must continue to fight against issues like anti-Semitism, ethnic cleansing, genocide, racism, xenophobia, and other expressions of hatred. And the trend in hate speech, and particularly in online hate speech, which was, compounded by conflict, by racism, by misogyny, and even compounded during the COVID pandemic, this trend threatens the fundamental aspirations of the UN Charter to safeguard human rights. The Stolpersteine Project is the world's largest memorial, and it's therefore part of an important effort to connect us with history and to remember and reflect on the ideologies and the events that led to the loss of so many lives. And this decentralized monument connects us to the individual stories of those whose names are engraved on each Stolperstein and helps us bear witness to their personal experiences of the Holocaust. And in this way, the Stolpersteine Project, it's a powerful tribute, but it's also an effort to personalise our remembrance and to not allow the individual names of those who were persecuted and lost their lives because of their ethnicity, their disability, their sexual orientation, their political affiliation, their religious belief, or their membership of the Jewish community, not to allow those individual names become lost in the enormity of the Holocaust. And I'm really honoured to be involved in the unveiling of these 6 Stolpersteine here in Dublin. And I would like to extend a warm welcome to the relatives of the victims being remembered who have been able to join us today, along with all members of the Irish Jewish community who are joining us. I'd like to acknowledge Gunter Demnig, the creator of the Stolpersteine Project, who is here today to unveil the 6 stones in memory of Ettie Steinberg Gluck, her husband Wojteck, and their baby son Leon, as well as Isaac Shishi, Ephraim Sachs, and his sister Jeanne. I want to commend Mr. Demnig on the work he's done with this project, with tens of thousands of Stolpersteine laid outside homes and buildings of significance that are connected to the victims of the Holocaust. And with each Stolperstein that is laid, it connects the communities, it connects the individuals that see those stones every day. But I'd also really encourage particularly the students to continue to find new ways to think, to talk, and to educate each other about events like the Holocaust and all kinds of discrimination, hatred, and silencing or disrespect for others. And this is how we ensure that we learn from history and we can all actively engage in change. And this meaningful memorial will importantly help these stories to pass through generations. But as a society as a whole, we must remain committed to the work involved in learning and understanding the ideologies, actions, and beliefs that led to atrocities like the Holocaust. And we must also remain vigilant, and we have to challenge prejudices that we see in our own communities, and we always have to strive to be more inclusive, more open, more tolerant to others. I therefore hope that this memorial will serve not only as a tribute to the 6 personal stories and the collective trauma of the Holocaust, but also as a daily reminder to act in ways that promote tolerance and inclusion and stand against acts or speech of hatred or anti-Semitism.
Thank you very much, Minister O'Gorman. Ladies and gentlemen, we've all been given a very warm welcome to St Catherine's National School here this morning. So now I'd like to invite School Principal Karen Jordan to say a few words. That's Karen.
Díomh agus céad míle fáilte chuig scoil náisiúnta Naomh Katrina. Hello everyone and welcome to St Catherine's National School. It is such a pleasure and a huge honour for me as Principal to welcome you all here today. We also extend a warm welcome to Tommy Reichenstahl. Tommy made a visit to St Catherine's a number of years ago and it's wonderful to welcome him back today. In St Catherine's we have 3 guiding principles. As one person described them, they're like tracks that run through our school. Everything we do here focuses on these 3 principles. They are developing and nurturing relationships, embracing and celebrating the individual, and building and valuing our community. It is wonderful today to have members of our extended community here to celebrate and remember with us. So in St Catherine's, our classrooms are all named. There is only one room named after a past pupil, this being our current 6th class classroom, the Ettie Steinberg room. As part of the 6th class history curriculum, our students study life during World War II. Our students remember Ettie and learn about her life and what it may have been like growing up in Dublin 8 at the time. We are so lucky to have a rich history in this community. Parts of the area were known as Little Jerusalem due to the many Jewish families who lived, worked and worshipped in this area. Ettie and her family lived just down the road from here on Raymond Terrace. Isaac and his family lived on St Albans Road. Many of our families live on Raymond Street, St Albans Road and their surrounds. Ettie most likely walked the same streets as our students as she made her way here to school. Having a real-life connection with someone who attended St Catherine's makes learning history, and especially this piece of history, meaningful for our students. Something that we hope they will remember many years from now. On display in their classroom, you will find poetry, timelines, stop-motion animations, artwork, and essays all created and produced by our 6th class students on this topic. Whilst we have studied Ettie before, we now look forward to including Isaac and siblings Ephraim and Jeanne to our studies. They too lived locally. When Esther, Wojteck and their son Leon were rounded up in Toulouse, they were interned in Drancy and then brought by train to Auschwitz. Whilst on that train, Ettie managed to throw a postcard from it. On it she had written a message in code. The message apparently read, "Uncle Lechem, we do not find, but we found Uncle Tisha B'Av," which meant we did not find plenty, but we found destruction. This postcard was miraculously found and posted home to Ettie's family in Dublin. When she threw her postcard from that train, Ettie showed great courage and determination. In remembering Ettie today, studying her life and death, now and for years to come, I hope that our students may use their own courage and determination for good. It is my hope that by studying this part of history and remembering the lives of Ettie, Wojteck, Leon, Isaac, Ephraim and Jeanne, and all the other poor souls who perished in concentration camps around Europe, that we can teach our students kindness, empathy, how to have courage in the face of adversity, how to persevere, and that we can all move forward in peace and unity with one another, despite our race, religion, gender, or culture. As I mentioned earlier, it is such an honour to be here today and to speak to you all. I'd like to thank a few people now. To Lynn, Kate and Megan from Holocaust Education Ireland for their support and all their hard work to get us all here today. Thank you. To the students from our 6th class for their interest and their learning. To our 6th class teacher, Sarah Scannell, for her enthusiasm and expertise.
Thank you very much, Karen, and indeed thanks to all the pupils and staff for the great welcome to us all here this morning. And now, ladies and gentlemen, introduce to you the Ambassador of the Federal Republic of Germany, His Excellency Dr. Cord Meyer-Klott.
Good morning, guten Morgen allerseits, Deriv, Shalom. In his important speech at Yad Vashem in 2020, held in the English language, Federal President Steinmeier, when referring to the industrial mass murder of 6 million Jews as the worst crime in the history of humanity committed by Germans, put a focus on the individual victims, the individual human beings, as others before me today have done. And I quote, "I, too, stand before this monument as a human being. And as a German, I stand before their monument. I read their names. I hear their stories. And I bow in deepest sorrow." End of quote from President Steinmeier. Today and here, we bow again in sorrow when remembering Ettie Steinberg Gluck, her husband Wojteck Gluck, and their baby son Leon, Isaac Shishi, Ephraim Sachs, and his sister Jeanne Sachs. 6 names, 6 human beings, 6 victims. From now on, their names will be part of the biggest decentralized creative art project in the world, committed to the commemoration of the individual victims of the Nazi crimes against humanity, the Stolpersteine, extending its already large range to yet one more country, Ireland. Stolpersteine, tripping stones in the literal translation, yet obviously they are not meant to make you trip and fall over them in a concrete manner. But they are meant to stand in the way, to make us stumble mentally, to move us out of our daily routine, and to reflect on the fate of those individual victims who could have been our neighbors, our friends, and who certainly shared with us the same right to live as all human beings. In short, those stones are meant to move us out of our comfort zone, which all too easily makes us take certain things, certain beliefs for granted, while actually they are not at all. No more war, for example, which for many decades seemed a given in post-war World War II Europe, and is now so blatantly violated by Russia's war on Ukraine. Or no more Auschwitz, which in a way remains under constant attack by far-right and anti-Semitic parties and movements on the rise in many of our countries, by attacks against Jewish individuals and synagogues, by the destruction of memorial sites and places of worship. From all of this follows one major moral obligation. We must not be indifferent. we must stand together and fight those grave challenges to our common beliefs and convictions together. Ladies and gentlemen, our embassy, myself, we are grateful to be partner to Holocaust Education Ireland, the organizer of today's event, a trusted partner in this very timely endeavor. From now on, these 6 names will be a small but integral part of this street, of the city of Dublin, and of Ireland as a whole. We must not forget.
The Stolpersteine was the brainchild of Gunter Demnig, and we're honoured to have him here with us this morning. And his main role here, obviously, is to actually install the Stolpersteine, but I'd like to invite him to say a few words.
Well, I'm sure in this circle it's not necessary to talk about the background of the Stolpersteine. The background is no reason to be happy about. But well, I can say in the name of my wife Katja, she's there, and of course in the name of our crew, we are now 11 persons. What I did when I started all on my own, can say we are happy about every new stone, every new town, every small village, and of course every new country. And first, thanks a lot for the organization, because on my own that would be impossible. That must become from the cities. and I'm really happy that I really realized that I started to realize this project, because for me as artist, it was conceptual art. Everybody knows the numbers. So I never had idea to realize, but well, just meantime to my idea, there was a book project in Germany, art projects for Europe, with the title Größenwahn, so megalomism. And I thought, okay, that's right. It was printed. Then a priest in Cologne got this book, and he told me, well, Gunter, you will never reach the million, but you can start small. You heard about 90,000. Okay, 90,000 is only a little bit, but I think it's a symbol, it will work. And later now, then there are 28 countries in Europe. So then the fundamental idea, every country in Europe where the German Wehrmacht, the SS, the Gestapo went in, killed people, murdered people, deported people, that there will be some stones. Well, Ireland is exceptional, UK too, but in a way I started this idea in Spain. So the German Wehrmacht doesn't fight us in Spain without the Legion Condor, but without the Germans nothing could happen. And all the so-called Red Spain who fled to France, they were caught from the Gestapo and brought to Mauthausen. And what we're happy about too, the interest of young people. So there were first a warning from teachers, that's boring from them, that's coming here. And I found this different. If they open a book and they are reading, they are killed 6 million Jews in Europe. And then they know there were 8 million killed from other reasons. That's an abstract. But when they had what happened with one family just round the corner, and the children, they were in our school. So that's another kind of education. And then the meeting with relatives. There are so many meetings with relatives. They come in, so the farthest traveling I had, Tasmania to Cologne. That's the farthest way. And sometimes they come in from 3 continents, 5 countries, never seen before. One time, the stones were installed, and there were 2 groups. And then one said, but we must be relatives. They didn't know before. And it's a phenomenon in Germany. The German Jews got early idea that it will become dangerous. They tried to save the children, but they sent them in the desert to Palestine. or later the Kindertransporte. And I think many of the parents know or had idea we will never see again. One time, a man came from Great Britain for mother and grandma. And he first told, oh, when I had to go to a Kindertransport, it was adventure. I was allowed to travel alone to Great Britain. It was incredible. Well, later he understood. To the stones, and he said, well, there are no gravestones. Cannot be gravestones, because both are gone in the air in Auschwitz. The ash was thrown in the river, or in winter used to make the way safe. But then he said, for me, it's a Schlussstein. Now I can travel home, but now I can come to Germany again. And similar, there was first time in Norway, 11 or 12 years ago, that a man said, it's pretty good that the German artist is coming with the stones to us, even since 50, 70 years later. And that was reason to continue, and was reason to make a foundation that it will go on. Thank you.
Much has been said of the victims that we're here in memory of, and the families who have travelled. And so, speaking on behalf of the families, I'd like to welcome Joe Schneider.
Distinguished guests, MC, councillors, minister, ambassador, family and friends, and last but not least, the staff and all the dear children of Scafferians. I'm both honoured and humbled to be standing here today as a direct nephew of Aunt Ettie Steinberg, who was my mother's sister. On behalf of our entire family, I must begin by expressing an enormous debt of gratitude to the country of Ireland, who in the late 1920s welcomed my grandparents who were fleeing the pogroms and persecution that were taking place across Eastern Europe, and particularly in their hometown Munkac in Czechoslovakia. It is interesting that their original intention was to immigrate to England, but when the UK borders were closed to immigrants and they were not allowed entry, they chose to settle in Ireland. My grandparents set their roots in Dublin with their 7 children. In fact, they were all educated at this school that we're standing here today, it's the Catharines. On the 22nd of July 1937, Aunt Ettie, the eldest Steinberg daughter, got married to Wojteck Gluck from Antwerp. The wedding took place at Greenville Hall Synagogue on the South Circular Road, and after their marriage they moved to Antwerp, where the Gluck family had a business. When Germany invaded Belgium in May of 1940, they had no option but to get up and run. And along with their new little babies Leon, the family fled to Paris, believing it to be a safer option than remaining in Antwerp. Within a year, the Vichy regime began rounding up Jews at the behest of Nazi Germany. Ettie, Wojciech, and Leon hid at various locations in France, but were eventually caught and arrested. When the wider Steinberg family back in Dublin learned of the fate of their children, they worked around the clock to procure Irish visas to allow them to return to Dublin. Tragically, the visas arrived just too late to be of use. The Gluck family were taken to Drancy, a transit camp outside Paris, and then on the 2nd of September 1942, deported in inhumane cattle trucks to Auschwitz concentration camp. On arrival to Auschwitz 2 days later, they were sent straight to the gas chambers, where there they perished. It goes without saying, there could have been no memorial for any of them. It is unbelievable that en route to Auschwitz, Ettie found the state of mind to write a final postcard to her family in Dublin and threw it out of the window of the cattle truck, hoping they may be found by an ally rather than an enemy. The postcard depicted their heartbreaking and catastrophic plight. The postcard was indeed found and with the help of the Red Cross passed on to the family in Dublin. Ettie's parents never came to terms with the tragic loss of their eldest daughter, their son-in-law and baby grandson. In truth, this is where the story should end. Another tiny statistic, lost and forgotten by all, save the history records preserved by the immediate family. And that is where it would have ended, were it not for the brainchild of Gunter Demnig and the efforts of the Holocaust Education Trust Ireland in association with Dublin City Council. The 6 Stolpersteines being unveiled today in memory of 6 Irish Holocaust victims are far more than mere plaques, which would be valued and appreciated in itself. This event taking place today carries a vital message. 6 human stories presented in this most poignant and moving of displays conveys the tragedy of millions in a way no book or list of statistics ever could. The baton must be passed on and accepted. The famous Irish philosopher Edmund Burke said, "Those who cannot remember the past are condemned to repeat it." That lesson must never cease to be taught. And so I stand here today on behalf of my family, on behalf of the Irish citizens who perished in the war, on behalf of all those who died during the terrible years of the Second World War. Thank you, Mr. Demnig, for creating the Stolperstein. Thank you to organisers for arranging the unveiling of the Stolperstein. And thank you to everyone involved in producing this most moving event. Thank you, thank you, thank you. 6 million times, thank you.
Under the Starry Sky was written by Ephraim Sutzkover, a leading Yiddish poet, while trapped in the ghetto of Vilna in July 1943, days before the ghetto was destroyed and all Jews murdered. Sutzkover escaped to the forest with his wife. He reached Russia and in 1947 moved to Palestine. He died in Israel in 2010 at the age of 96. The poem was set to the music by Abraham Brodna, a simple labourer in Vilna ghetto who died in a concentration camp. Under the starry sky, in the glow of the starry sky, let your hand upon me rest. Every word of mine a tear, please take me to your breast. Your stars cast their glow into the cellar deep, in my sight, but within me not a single ray, to return the gift of light.
Eilon vole rachamim, shoichein bamroimim, dayan ol manois, va'avir soimim, hamtzei menuchonechoino, al kanfei ashechino, b'ma'alois kedoshim etohorim, kezer harakia, meirim umazhirim, es nishmois haruga Yisroel, bidei hanatzim v'ozreihem, Nishmois sheish meyois ribo Yisroel, anoshim, noshim, vatov, shenergu, v'shenisrafu, v'shenechneku, v'shenikberu chayim, bohem tzadikim, anshei midois v'anshei emunim, tinokois shel beis rabon, oilolim v'yoenkim, b'gan eden tehei menuchosom, Lochein balorachamim, Yitzroi britzroi rachayim es nishmosom, Adonai hu nachlosom, V'yize koilon v'akedosom, v'akedas kol kedusha Yisroel, V'samud lonu elechol Yisrael zechusom, Eretz alte chasidomom, Val yehi mokim lezahakosom, B'zchusom nitchei Yisrael yoshuvo lachuzasom, V'akedoshim Zichron Tomid, Negedei Nechot Tzaditzit Kosom, Yovoyu Shalom, Yonuchal Mishkabosehem, V'neimar Amen. I shall now intone the Kaddish prayer, which is normally said by mourners in the synagogue, and by reciting this, the mourner adds merits to the souls of the departed. And when I say this, let us all have in mind that by my saying this shall be an elevation for their souls. Yizgadal v'yizgadash shemei rabo. V'yalamod yivrochirusei, v'yamlich malchusei, b'chayechoyne v'yemechoyne, v'chayedecho beis Yisrael, v'agolo uvizman koriv v'yimeru omein. Yehei shmei rabo mevorach l'olam l'lemene mayo, yisborach v'yishtabach v'yisvar v'yisomam v'yisnasei, v'yishador v'yisalev v'yishalo shmei d'kutsho b'richu. Le'elom in kol b'choso v'shiroso, tush b'choso v'nechemoso, tamerom b'yalamav v'yimro omein. Yehei shlomo rabo mishmayo v'chayim oleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oyse shalom imemo v'yaseh shalom oleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. May we please God only meet in future on happy occasions. And may their memory be for a blessing.